Okay, YouTubers, welcome to Scorpion 89 199. I want to show you, I want to have a surprise for you today. So I have a friend named Harry who's, he was moving his church. He sold his church, and there was some stuff. I got a free TV and a free VCR, and this thing I'm about to show you, because he had to move everything out. It's Monday night. He had to move everything out by this morning, Monday morning. So I just want to make a quick video because it's getting really cold out here. This is my new stereo. It's from, I don't know, mid to late 70s, I'd say. It's what brand is that? It says it's a Philco. I don't know what kind of Philco it is because it's plastic. But it's a Philco. All the speeds you need: 78, 33, 45, and 16. Auto or manual. At least the tone arm is metal and the actual turntable's metal. But he gave me this. I just had to pick it up last night. So, I am going to make a series out of this. I'm going to sand the top down. I'm going to put some grease in it. If I have to, I'll yank the components and get them repaired. If not, it makes a really good cabinet. So, I hope you join me on this journey. I don't have a place to store it right now, so it's in the back of my father's van. I just wanted to show you guys that. I'm going to start making some videos pretty soon. Matter of fact, I'll be making a video in the next couple days. I'm going to back out of the van, give you a better view of it. So the desirable ones you want are from the 40s, 50s, 60s, or early 70s. This looks old. It looks more wooden than it is. This is wood, but it's plywood. But it's still wood. Actually, this top might be actual wood. But the front part, this is not the console stereos, the really nice hand-built ones from the 50s and 60s that were made by professional carpenters and assembled in plants with Philco and BSR turntables. But it's still, I hear that even these later models can be pretty good. At least it's not made out of particle board. The ones made in the late 70s and early 80s, they're made out of particle board, so they don't tend to last. But hey, for free, we're gonna see if she'll work. I haven't plugged it in, but I wanted to show you guys this real quick. We'll go do a once back here again, another one. And Philco was made by Ford and was sold to either Philips or Columbia in 1974. So really, ideally you want a Philco made before the buyout. But like I said, it's not too bad. It's not in the best condition, and the top definitely needs to work. But I always wanted one of these. I had a roommate 10 years ago that had an Astrosonic from 1967 Magnavox. That thing sounded awesome. If you kicked it up above 3, it would rattle your walls. She bought it from her aunt. But I got this totally free, and I'm going to clear some space out for it within the next couple weeks, and sand it down, get the components to work, and should make a nice radio. And for anyone that's interested in doing this kind of thing, you see those tape connectors there, the RCA jacks. They were for tapes and reel-to-reel or exponent or external speakers. But you can still plug a Bluetooth adapter into it, or auxiliary, or an RCA to auxiliary, or your TV. Pretty much anything that takes RCA plugs or that plugs in. So I hope you enjoyed my little video that I'm gonna post on my next vinyl update, and with music or Explore every day, do it with music. Josiah out. And what is up, VC? I hope I'm looking at the right part of the camera. I'm still a little new at this, even though I've been doing this for a year. So I have been away for a little while, and a lot of things have been going on, some crazy things, some cool things. But you're here for the records, aren't you? So, I have quite a few records. This goes all the way back to October. It's now the beginning of January, almost the middle of January, and I haven't bought anything yet. The last thing I bought was on the 31st of December 2021, so Happy New Year to all you guys. I want to do an update, and also there's a video I'm linking to this video I'm making right now, a shorter video where you may have seen. I have a friend named Harry. Some of the records that I'm about to show I got from Harry's Books and Records in Richmond, Kentucky. If you're ever in the Central Kentucky area, go check him out. He's got books, records, VHS tapes, CDs, some DVDs, but he was buying a lot of that stuff before DVDs were a thing. You know, he's been buying since 1966, 1967. He's been buying stuff from estate sales and yard sales and flea markets, all sorts of stuff. He deals in books. He's a busy guy, though. He's a pastor. He also directs funerals. But anyway, he was getting rid of a bunch of stuff, and he was moving out of his church building. He'd been there for 20 years, and he asked me if I'd like to help him move, but unfortunately I had to work the day that he asked me. So then I think it was the next day, I was off that day. I took care of some business in town, where he lives is about 35 minutes from my house, and went over to his church and picked up a cool VCR and a DVD player. I want to play my Super Nintendo, and it's much easier to play an old tube TV. Nothing special. They're both from like the early to mid 90s. But then I got a pretty cool VCR and a Zenith TV, and a Emerson VCR, but an earlier model with all the bells and whistles and sets and buttons. And I asked him to hold a console stereo for me. There was a Sylvania one I only looked at it for a minute, but it looked like it was from the late 60s or early 70s, so still pretty desirable. Kind of on the lower end, but note to self, I saw the Philco. So Philco, anybody that doesn't know, Philco was a company that started out building car radios back in the 1920s and 30s. And they were owned by Ford until from 1961 to 1966, so not very long. Then they were bought out by, now my video it says they were bought out by Philips, but then I'm finding confusing information. Some people say Sylvania, some people say Philips, and other people say GTE, I think they call it, or GTA. No, GTE. Either way, the quality went down, and by the early 70s, console stereos, including this one, were being made out of particle board or plywood, and the components were just not as good. Fortunately, even though mine's probably from the mid to late 70s, I'm going to guess about 1974 or so, because that's when Philco was bought out. Oh, that's right. Ford sold it to Philips. Ford sold it to this GTE company, and then they sold it to Philips in 74. something like that. Basically, there's been a few different hands, and they still exist, but now they're owned by Philips since 1981. So anyway, a long spiel on that. I'm going to be sanding that down. I'm going to be respraying it, try to make it look a little modern, only because the console stereos from the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, like 1971 might be pushing it, or 70, 71, from my research. They started being lower quality. Didn't mean they were all bad, but they started to be really bad quality. And the ones from the 50s and 60s weigh hundreds of pounds, and the one I have weighs about 30 or 40 pounds. It's still a decent unit, and if I can't get the components to work, then I'll yank it. I'll see if it can be fixed, if it's worth being fixed. Because a lot of times, repair shops will tell you if it's worth fixing or not. If not, I can always buy a gutted art receiver and turntable on eBay from a better quality one, or from a better quality console stereo. The ones you want, as I'm going to say in my video before this, the ones you want are from mid to late 1950s all the way up until the early 70s. Ideally, you want it to be about 1969 or less, or earlier, because those are the ones that were hand built by wood craftsmen, and they had mid-grade to high-grade receivers and tape players and record players, and they were still metal and really nice units. Anyway, I'm going to make a separate series on that, and at the beginning of this video, you'll see that clip. So anyway, while you're here, I've taken a little bit too long here, but anyway, we'll get into the finds. So in October, Billy Hurst from what used to be Billy Hurst, which is now Riverbend Records, which I have a video on my channel about going to Riverbend Records back in July. I met Billy and his wife, and they recommended me some good barbecue. You can watch that video on my channel. It's from, I believe I put it out in August. But I saw he was showing some reissues. A very rare record by a band called Mistreater, it's spelled a little bit oddly, was one of the records I picked up from San Rafael, California. I don't know the name of the seller, but yeah, San Rafael, California, on Discogs. The first album came out in '81, super rare, it's private pressed, not well known, and original copies go for a couple $100. You can get a reissue, but what I dug their second album much better. Mistreater, Swami, from 1987, still private press, a lot cheaper. Well, not a lot cheaper. I think I still paid like $75, $65 for this. It's on their own record label. Next up, this one that I've always wanted. I had the other record, but I had their other record, but this EP is much better. And both of these are in the shrink, and this one was sealed until I opened it. Born to Rock by Soundberry. They were an all African American or Black American heavy metal band from Los Angeles. They never got their dues. They're better than Black Death, I think, if you've ever heard of Black Death. And that's on Pitbull Records, 1984. Totally sealed. See if I can get a better light. There you go. 1984. After that, we had in November went to Todd's Antique Mall, which I've been looking for years, in Berea, Kentucky. And I didn't find too much, but I found this exclusive 78 by Johnny Moore and his Three Blazers. Pretty good rhythm and blues. More on the blues side. Electric blues. You better change your loving way. Way 11. From 1947, I think. Yeah, 1947. And Friendless Blues on the exclusive 78 RPM. And the other one I got at Todd's was Almost There by the Turtles, their first garage record before they went pop. Backed with Ain't Me Babe, It Ain't Me Babe, on that classic white whale. That's the first white whale I actually have. Really good 1965 garage. Then at Pop's resale, we got another 78, Sneaky Pete by Bullnose Jackson and his Buffalo Bearcats. Pretty early rhythm blues, jump blues. Hope you guys can pick that up. Let's see here. Backed with I Love You, Yes I Do. On King. On another exclusive a little bit later, 1949, Edgar Hayes, Edgar's Boogie. Really cool. I really want Mabel Scott's Boogie Woogie Santa Claus on this label. Not easy to come by. Sunday Morning Blues, early rhythm blues, jump blues type stuff. Then on to a major haul. I went to the Metal Throat. Oh yeah, before that, November, we got these two awesome 45s. First one was the day after my birthday, on early November. We went down and visited a friend of mine from Owensboro, Kentucky, in the area called Madisonville. And we got to try some mutton at a place called Moonlight Barbecue. And then we went to a really cool video game store. And then we went finally to the, like a peddler's mall, but it was just called the Outlet Mall. This is cool. This is a Columbia Nippon Japanese 45 I found way out in northern Kentucky, out in the middle of nowhere. Consumer Mall, that's what it's called. Rockabilly Kempo. Don't know what that says. Anybody in the comments can tell me. That would be greatly appreciated. And Ooh-Wah-Wee Teen, or Tea. I don't know anything about that. And about a week, less than a week later, we got, this was on Max Stevens, brother Max Stevens, I Buy Old Records channel. Never heard of this, but this is awesome rockabilly doo-wop. The Waddle by the Slades from 1958, and You Cheated. Awesome rockabilly music, kind of like Elvis Presley and the Jordanaires. Then we have this stuff's all from the 1920s all the way to the 1970s. So lots of variety, 3 different formats, all different genres. Just a Little Drink by Paul Whitman and his orchestra. Ooh. aha. It's funny, it goes, aha, aha. Weird 1920s jazz dance band music. Also by Paul Whitman and his orchestra, or Whiteman. Sorry if these don't read very well. On an early Decca, not from the 20s, but Decca sleeve. This is like a Prohibition song talking about drink during the Prohibition. And then that was from Meadow Throat Flea Market in Lexington, Kentucky. Then we have my first full album. This is what an album used to be, where you actually have different 78s, all in different sleeves. So like an actual photo album, kind of. John Kirby and his orchestra from 1941. See that? And you got things like Double Talk. You got Sweet George Brown. And let's see, you also got, well, there's supposed to be one called Dance of the Sugar Plums. I don't know. Oh, Bounce of the Sugar Plums. Awesome Christmas jazz, big band jazz music from the early 40s. Where this is gonna fall. There we go. So there's that. At the same place, and this should be in November, I believe. Still, we've got really cool early rock and roll, even though this is by a jazz singer. Really cool early rock and roll stuff. Rock Right by Georgia Gibbs with Hugo Patriot and his orchestra on a Mercury from 1956. And K-Star is a jazz vocalist from the 40s and 50s and 60s. But she did a little bit of rock. I can't call it rockabilly, but it's got a guitar kind of like Billy Haley in the Comets. That second one is The Greatest Thing on that Mercury sleeve. From Pop's resale on that same day. Oh no, this would be December. Duke from Memphis. Never Let Me Go, Johnny Ace. And the B-side, can't read that. So the B-side would be, let's see. If we go to the first one, look at my Discogs here. Burly Curly. Yeah, Burly Curly from 1954. And then from Pop's resale that very same day, we have Rimsky, Korvarsky, Sokovy, something like that. 1949. This is significant. I put this on my. I played this on my Facebook channel once. One of the first LPs that came out in 1948, 1949, and they're 10 inches. They were 10 inches until the mid to late 50s when 12-inch size records became standard for LPs, even though there were 12-inch 78s. They were only classical. But by this time, the late 40s, early 50s, most people were still using 10 inches, but 12 inches were starting to become popular again. And here's an interesting thing. This is, I made a video for something else, not YouTube, and this popped out. This was a library record. I don't know if you can read that, but it says, Purpose and Place, 1965, card 2. It's a punch card from an old computer, an early computer. Talks about what Walt Whitman, and it says Library of Congress. I mean, how did this end up in central Kentucky? Or am I looking into this too much? This is why I love records. Because you find just the most interesting thing. This record wasn't just one of the first releases for a new format that was originally a format made in the 30s, but because due to the Great Depression, they could not. It didn't survive. So those are rare demonstration records. So skip 14, 15 years to the late 40s, and the LP came out. So really cool, awesome. I couldn't believe when I found that card. Georgia Gibbs, really good jazz vocalist, big band vocalist. Georgia Gibbs sings on Allegro Elite, which is another 10-inch. I've never seen one. It looks just like a 78, but it's made out of vinylite, so it doesn't break as easily. And you got Jan Garber. He was a 1920s jazz artist, but he ran through the 40s and 50s. I would say this is his 40s output. Not as good, but definitely worth a check. Listen to his 78 record called, you can find it on YouTube. It's called You Don't Like It Not Much. I forget what the other side is, but Jeff from Tone and Grooves, who does awesome DJ sets called Shellac Stacks. He introduced me to K-Star through his videos. He introduced me to Jan Garber, although this is his later stuff. It's not as good. It's still decent. And that's on Royale 10-incher from 1954. Both Georgia Gibbs and this are from 1954. Moving on to a 7-inch on King. You got Big Boy by Bill Jennings Quartet. And Danny Boy, which is a cover song of a very old folk song. There we go. Then on to, we're getting really close here. From December, I got this. I discovered when I went down to get that Japanese record in Owensboro, I found this label called Orbit, which was out of I forget where it was out of, probably New York City. But it was a Polka 45. It was the red label. This is the yellow label. Pretty good rockabilly here on Orbit. Goodbye Little Star by Kenny Baker. And I'm Gonna Love You. Awesome rockabilly music. This song, Goodbye Little Star, tells the story in the rising and the falling of a Hollywood starlet who played in early Elvis Presley movies. Her name, well, you have to look that up. I don't have it right here. So then, just about a week ago, I went before I went to pick up that stereo, my friend Harry had 4 new boxes of 45s that weren't there 6 months ago, last time I looked through his records. I got quite a few good records. Some of them he gave me for free, some of them I had to buy. Here's another K-Star on Capitol, Angry, from the I believe the mid-50s. With a constructed orchestra by David Barber. On the deluxe label, really good Otis Williams Rhythm and Blues from 1955, Gumdrop. Kind of hard to see because it's kind of faded. And Save Me, Save Me. Really killer find there. a second pressing of Buddy Holly's first 45. Before it was Buddy Holly and the Crickets. It was just Buddy Holly. It's credited to Buddy Holly and Sue Parrish. Love Me, cool early rockabilly. This Decca sleeve I already had. I just put it in there. And this would be from probably 58, even though his first 45 came out in 55 or 56. Or 56. And You Are My One Desire. First pressings have Dark Days and Dark Nights. Or Black Days and Black Nights, I think it's called. On Roulette, on a mid label Roulette, you have A Southern Boy Sings the Blues by Chuck Reed. This has really good guitar in it. These need to be cleaned up too. They're really dirty. And I still got about 3.5 boxes of 45s to go through. I only got to go through one. And then I have about a stack or a stack and a half of 7/8s to go through. Sugar Corsage. Can't see that very well. Finally for the 45s, we have Mama Spending Christmas in Heaven by Esco Hankins and Jackie Hankins from 1977 on Jewel Records, which was a label out of northern Kentucky, right up on the border of Tennessee, by Rusty York, who is a famous country, bluegrass, and rockabilly singer, and he owned the label Jewel. His most famous song was Sugary, which was originally on a Note label, and then later on it was put on King. So you got that, and also I got quite a few 78s from Harry. So let's get those done pretty soon. Shoot. Gotta be careful, 78s are fragile. We're almost done here. Alright, so finally, I gotta be so careful. On Vocalion for 41, Al Donahue and his orchestra. Got a crack in it, but it still plays really well because the crack is almost not noticeable. Imagination. With Paula Carey on the vocals and Burke Van Henson. The B-side, Let There Be Love. Vocals, chorus by Phil Brito, Grant Rand, and Al Donahue and his orchestra. Wrapping this up, we got keep going here. The Slow Mosquito by Gene Krupa and his orchestra from 1947. Really good big band. Really hard to read. Backed with It's a Good Day. On Red Columbia. One that I cannot find on Discogs. So I have this in my collection, but it's not on my internet collection. It's in my physical collection. Slippery Smith by the Ben Smith Quartet on Savoy. This was a great find. Not in the best shape, but it plays well. And By the Candle Glow. This is probably from the very late 40s, early 50s. Not much I can find about it. This was an awesome find. I only paid $1 for each of these, the 45s and the 78s, totaling $10 for, I think, 11 records. Count Basie and his orchestra, The King on Red Columbia from 1946. I prefer to have his 30s music, but this is good enough. And Blue Skies, which is a cover of a really old song. A really old country song, I think. Two more to go here. You got the Dill Pickle Rag from 1936 on a later Blue Decca by Harry Roy and his orchestra. and Canadian Capers. Also can't find this version of this record on Discogs. I can find it, but there's no Dill Pickle Rag on the opposite side. And finally, last but not least, we've got Benny Goodman and his orchestra. Benny Goodman and his orchestra from 1946. Rattle and Roll. I really love, this is a really good early big band, or later big band song. See, I like Benny Goodman, not a huge fan of Glenn Miller. Some of his songs are good. And Oh, on the Alamo. Oh, when I told you that I got 70s records, one last one that I totally forgot. You got Laney Hall, really good, kind of jazzy, soft rock, but with pretty good guitar lines and really good bass. Kind of disco because it is 1979. Just Laney Hall, self-titled. And if you like some jazzy with a little bit of rock tone in it, definitely check this out because her first couple albums, first like 4 albums are really, really good. And then she did Never Say Never Again for the Unofficial Bond from 1983 on Promotional. All good stuff. So with that, oh, and it has the sleeve. So that's always nice. With that, I hope you enjoyed my update here. I do plan on making making videos a little bit more frequently than I have been. It's been 2 months. But I hope everybody in the VC is doing well. Explore every day. Do it with music. Josiah out.